Cerebrum. How many cerebral hemispheres are there? Two. Then midbrain is there. Then brainstem is there. Pons, medulla. Okay. So for the blood supply of the brain, do you know the surfaces of the cerebrum? What are the different surfaces of the cerebrum? Superolateral surface, medial surface, inferior surface. So the blood supply to the brain is very crucial. Those who are using mobiles can keep them in their pockets or in their bags. It's not necessary to repeat it always. So why it is crucial to have a blood supply to the brain? It is only 2% of the body weight, thus it is receiving 20% of the cardiac output. So if the blood supply to the brain is stopped for 4 minutes, then there is an irreversible change. If it is stopped for 10 seconds, there will be unconsciousness. So what are the major vessels that are supplying the brain? What are the vessels that enter the cranial cavity? Internal carotid artery and vertebral artery. So both are branches from the vertebral artery is coming from subclavian artery. Which part of the subclavian artery? Other branches? And from where does the internal carotid artery come? Common carotid artery. Does it give any branch in the cervical region? No, it's not giving branch in the cervical region. Where does it divide? From the common carotid artery, the two arteries are made, external carotid and internal carotid. So what is the level of division of the common carotid artery? Thyroid cartilage. So what is the location from where the internal carotid artery it enters the cranial cavity? What is the location? एक बार बाहर भैया होंगे ना, उनको बोलना पॉइंटर देके जाएंगे. So what is the location of the entry of the internal carotid artery? Carotid canal. Okay. So it enters the carotid canal and then it enters the cranial cavity. So what is the first point from where it will enter? Foramen lacerum. Why it is being called as lacerum? Why it is called as foramen lacerum? फोरामेन लेसरम को लेसरम क्यों बोलते हैं भाई? देखा है किसी ने फोरामेन लेसरम? कैसी शेप होती है, बाउंड्रीज कैसी होती हैं उसकी? बुद्धि प्रकाश जी उसको फोन करिएगा धीरेन्द्र को कि इसमें LP1 में ना वो नहीं है पॉइंटर देके जाएंगे. पॉइंटर देके जाएंगे, वो LT के बाहर कोई बैठा नहीं हुआ, पॉइंटर है नहीं. हाँ हाँ उसको फोन करो, फोन उठा नहीं रहा है. या छोड़ो, मिल गया. So if we see the skull, the location of entry of internal carotid artery is foramen lacerum. So you have not told me why it is called as lacerum, because the margins of this foramen are lacerated. So irregular margins are there which are called as lacerated margins, from where it derives its name. So now if you see the internal carotid artery, it doesn't go straight into the cranial cavity. It has a siphon shaped entry into the cranial cavity. First it enters the foramen lacerum, then it turns into the carotid canal, then again it turns to enter into the cavernous sinus, then it turns below the optic nerve. Will you please stop talking? Then it enters below the optic nerve and turns backwards. So it has been divided into different parts. What are the different parts? The cervical region, where it is giving no branches. Then it is traveling into the carotid canal, the petrous part of the internal carotid artery. Then we have the cavernous part of the internal carotid artery and the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery. So you should know how many bends are there in the internal carotid artery. There are 6 bends in the internal carotid artery when it enters from the cervical region till the cranial cavity. So if you can see this diagram, here it has been numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the portions from where it turns. So first it will enter into the foramen lacerum. As it enters into the foramen lacerum, it travels upward and then it travels into the carotid canal. Then it exits through the carotid canal and travels vertically upward and bends to travel the cavernous sinus. After crossing the cavernous sinus, it reaches to the clinoid processes. I hope you have seen the clinoid processes in the skull. So it is medial to the anterior clinoid process. Again a turn is there. Then it is traveling upwards and turning backwards at the level of the optic nerve. So it is below the optic nerve and turn backwards. Then it turns upwards to give the branch, that is the middle cerebral artery. So this is the course of the internal carotid artery. Anyone who will be asking you the internal carotid artery would want to know what are the different bends in the internal carotid artery. So this is a siphon shaped entry of the internal carotid artery with 6 bends into the cranial cavity. So if you can see here in the sagittal section, this is the common carotid artery dividing into external and the internal. This internal carotid artery, here it is reaching the foramen lacerum, and this whole portion is the carotid canal. Then again it comes outwards and turns into the cavernous sinus. Now after reaching the cavernous sinus, it is turning towards the anterior clinoid process and then upwards and behind. This is the backward turn of the internal carotid artery below the optic nerve. So this is the course of the internal carotid artery into the, I have told you not to talk. If you want to talk, you can leave the class. I have already taken the attendance. Now this is a radiograph where you can see the internal carotid artery. This A has been marked B and the C. So what is this? This is a carotid angiogram. This A is the carotid siphon, that is the internal carotid artery. Anteriorly a branch is going, posteriorly a branch is going. So this C is the anterior cerebral artery and B is the middle cerebral artery. No, this is not posterior, middle cerebral artery. Now what are the branches of the internal carotid artery? So internal carotid artery, when enters, it gives multiple branches as it is to form a communication channel with the vertebral artery. So it has many branches, you have to learn them. Ophthalmic artery. So this is the ophthalmic artery. It is giving posterior communicating artery. So this main, the thickened red color branch is shown. This is the middle cerebral artery. One going posteriorly, this is the posterior communicating artery. Going anteriorly is the anterior cerebral artery. The two anterior cerebral arteries, they are communicating with each other with the help of the anterior communicating artery. So there is one anterior communicating artery and the two anterior cerebral arteries. Then there is anterior choroidal arteries are also there that are coming from this internal carotid artery. So this list of arteries you have to remember, that this ophthalmic artery, posterior communicating, anterior choroidal, anterior cerebral, middle cerebral and the hypophyseal, that is supplying the pituitary gland. They are all coming from the internal carotid artery. Now from here you have to also take this that this internal carotid artery, which is giving anterior cerebral artery, anterior communicating and posterior communicating. They are the part of the channels. The last row, please get out. Third last row. खड़े हो जाओ फटाफट, पता है कौन बात कर रहा था. Write your roll numbers and get out of the class. You cannot keep on distracting someone. Get out. खड़े हो जाओ. आप सुनाई दे चुका है ना और पता है कौन बातें कर रहा था. खड़े हो जाओ और क्लास से बाहर चले जाओ. तुम भी, next to you, stand up. ब्लैक शर्ट, बहुत स्मार्ट हो तुम लोग, ओवर स्मार्ट हो, सबको पता है. यू विल पास इन द फर्स्ट ईयर ऑल्सो, ये भी पता है सबको. बट यू कैन नॉट डिस्ट्रैक्ट. Now, what is the vertebrobasilar system? One was the internal carotid artery and the branches. Now, the vertebral artery, which is coming from the subclavian artery, how it enters and forms the basilar artery. So, this vertebral artery, as you can see, it is coming from the subclavian artery, and here you can see it is traversing the foramina. So, what are these foramina that are that is from the cervical vertebrae? Foramen transversarium. So, from C6 to C1, it is traversing through this foramen and reaching the cranial cavity. So it enters into the cranial cavity over to the passing over the this C1 cervical vertebra. So these two, not the single vertebral artery, it is arising from the two subclavians. So on both the sides, one vertebral artery is there. Now these two vertebral arteries, as they reach onto the surface of the pons, they join each other and form a single artery, which was present in the basilar groove of the pons. So what is the name of this artery? Basilar artery. So this is a picture which is very clear that these are the two vertebral arteries running over the surface of the medulla, and they are reaching over to the surface of the pons and forming the basilar artery. Now, what are the branches of the vertebral artery? So, vertebral artery not only joins and supplies the cranial cavity, it is also supplying the spinal cord also. So, at the lower level, it is giving the anterior spinal arteries, posterior spinal arteries, which are from the vertebral artery. Then it is also supplying the cerebellum. So, branches of this artery, that is posterior inferior cerebellar artery, comes from the vertebral artery, meningeal arteries, and the medullary arteries. So what you have to remember from here is that these anterior spinal and posterior spinal for the spinal cord, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, one of the blood supply to the cerebellum. Girls, last row. जाओ बाहर, खड़े हो जाओ. कंटिन्यूअसली ऐसे करते रहोगे तो लेक्चर नहीं हो पाएगा. सर ने ऑलरेडी मना कर दिया है तुम्हारे लेक्चर लेने के लिए, बाकी फैकल्टी भी मना कर देगी. उठो, जाओ यहाँ से, गेट आउट. इनके नेम्स लिखो और रोल नंबर्स लिखो. स्टैंड अप, 4 of you. Don't waste my time. Stand up and get out. Now, as this basilar artery is formed on the surface of the pons, the cerebellum is adjacent to the pons. So it is again giving, write your name. लिख दिया? So this is giving blood supply to the cerebellum also. We have discussed this earlier also in the pons that superior cerebellar artery is coming from the this basilar artery, and anterior inferior cerebellar artery is also coming from the basilar artery. So one artery which is supplying the cerebellum is coming from the vertebral artery, rest two are coming from the basilar artery. Other branches are pontine arteries, as it is traversing the pons, so it is giving the branches to the pons. Then it is giving posterior cerebral artery. So one of the important part here is posterior cerebral artery, which will be forming the anastomosis with the branches of the internal carotid artery. This posterior cerebral artery gives the branches, that is anterior temporal, posterior temporal, parieto-occipital and calcarine arteries. Next, if you can see this line diagram, you can see there is a communication between the two colors. Now these two colors are depicting the branches from the different arteries. Pink is from internal carotid, while red one is from the basilar artery. So branch from the basilar artery, that is the posterior cerebral artery. Then branches from the internal carotid, one going anteriorly is the anterior cerebral, one which is communicating posteriorly between the anterior cerebral and the posterior cerebral is the posterior communicating artery. Then between the two anterior cerebral artery is the anterior communicating artery. Now this loop of anastomosis and collateral circulation, this is called as the circle of Willis. So this circle of Willis, it is lying in the interpeduncular fossa, medial to the cerebral peduncle. So this is lying in the region of interpeduncular fossa. Now here you can see it in the parenchyma of the brain, that these are the branches. This is the anterior cerebral, this is anterior communicating branch, this is posterior communicating branch, and this is basilar artery which is giving posterior cerebral artery. So this is the anastomotic channel which is created on the inferior surface of the brain. Now these are the arteries that has taken part in the formation of the circle of Willis. Anteriorly, anterior communicating artery, anterior cerebral artery which is branches from the internal carotid, posteriorly basilar artery dividing into the posterior cerebral artery, and laterally on the either side is posterior communicating artery which is again the branch from the internal carotid artery. So circle of Willis is a very important topic for your exam. Now what is the functional significance of this circle of Willis? Now the blood flow passing through this channel, though it is looking anastomotic, the blood flow is not mixing. It is right and left blood, it is not mixing in this circulation. There is only a little interchange of the blood across the right and left. So what is the importance of circle of Willis formation over the parenchyma of the brain? So if there is any blockage occurs in one of the arteries, this collateral circulation starts. So that is the importance of this circle of Willis to be present in the brain. Now coming to the different arteries that supply the cerebrum. Now the cerebrum has branches which are called as cortical branches, central branches, choroidal branches. Now I will not take the name that this artery is supplying the branch from the internal carotid, branch from the basilar artery. Now the names have changed here. The branches names are cortical branches. What do you mean by the cortical branches? The cortical branches that are running over to the surface of the brain, and they are further giving the branches and supplying the grey matter and the white matter of the brain. Next are the central branches. Central branches will be lying onto the inferior surface of the brain mostly, and it will be supplying the structures like internal capsule, thalamus, that is lying on the inferior surface. Then the choroidal arteries. Choroidal arteries, if you have heard the name of the choroid plexus, there is Stylia choroidea related to the ventricles. So it is supplying the ventricles, the choroid plexus over into the ventricles. They are supplied by the choroidal arteries. Now, what are the cortical branches? Where are they present? The cortical branches, they are present all over the surface. They form the complete anastomotic channels over the pia mater. So, pia mater, if you have seen on those tables that brain have been taken out, so you can see that covering of the pia mater is completely filled with the blood vessels. So, those are the cortical branches that are forming anastomosis over the surface of the brain, and this gives the further branches to supply the cortical area and the white matter of the brain, that is the short arteries and the long arteries are there. So short arteries, they are supplying, as outside of the brain is containing the gray matter, so short they are supplying the gray matter, and long they have to go deeper, they are supplying the white matter over to the surfaces. Then the central branches or the striate branches, so they are derived from the circle of Willis onto the inferior surface. They supply the diencephalon basal nuclei internal capsule. Now you have four group of striate arteries: anteromedial, posteromedial, anterolateral and posterolateral. Now you can see these arteries, they are all related to the branches of the circle of Willis. Now if this is the picture of the circle of Willis, this is anterior portion, this is posterior portion. So you can see the arteries which are coming branches from the posterior cerebral artery. They all are the posteromedial branches of the posteromedial branches or striate arteries, and this is anteromedial branches. Laterally, these are the lateral arteries. Lateral arteries anteriorly, that is anterolateral branches, they are derived from the middle cerebral artery, while in this posterolateral arteries, they are derived from the posterior cerebral artery. Now choroidal arteries. Choroidal arteries, they are anterior choroidal artery, posterior choroidal artery. So they are related to the choroid plexus. So anterior choroidal artery is derived from the internal carotid artery, while the posterior choroidal is derived from the posterior cerebral artery. Now if it is clear to you what are striate arteries, what are choroidal arteries and what are cortical arteries, next is how this surface is supplied. As you have told, there is superolateral surface, medial surface and the inferior surface. Now this surface, all the anastomotic channels that are formed over to the surface, they were derived only from these arteries, that is anterior, middle and the posterior cerebral arteries. Now they are supplying the specific regions over to the surface. So if there is any injury to a particular area, it will lead to a presentation symptoms of the patient. So they will be matching, because I think you have covered what are the areas that are related to the cerebrum, right? So this is have been depicted in the different colors, pink, blue and green. So this pink area, this is the major area of the middle cerebral artery. So superolateral surface is majorly supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Next is the anterior cerebral artery. So it is above this middle cerebral artery region up till the parieto-occipital sulcus. So this is a band of around 2.5 centimeter over the superolateral surface, which is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. And in the posterior region, that is the occipital lobe, and a part of the temporal lobe is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. So you have to remember this, that the superolateral surface is majorly supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Now if middle cerebral artery is affected, so you should be knowing what are the areas that would be affecting. The primary motor area, primary somatic area, then Broca's expressive speech area. Broca's is the motor area of speech. Then Wernicke's area, the sensory area, and the primary auditory area. So they might get affected, and if it is affected, what are the features the patient will come with? The symptoms, the patient will come with the contralateral hemiplegia and hemianesthesia. So that means motor and sensory loss. So all of you know what is sensory homunculus, what is motor homunculus, how the body is represented on the cerebral surface. So in the contralateral hemiplegia and hemianesthesia of the body is occurring if the middle cerebral artery is occluded. So it is only in the face and the arm. So what is paired here? The foot, legs, they are not being included. So hemiplegia with the face and the arm. Why? Because the primary motor and the sensory areas of this region are affected. Then there can be loss of speech, as the Wernicke's and Broca's areas are there. So there can be aphasia. What is the difference between sensory aphasia and the motor aphasia? Rahul, what is the difference between sensory and the motor? If there is aphasia in both of the in any of the region, what how the patient will present? बैठ जाओ पढ़ के बताना. DH में पूछूंगी मैं तुमसे. Medial surface. Now coming to the medial surface. So medial surface, here you can see anterior cerebral artery. There was middle cerebral artery that was majorly supplying that area. Now here it is anterior cerebral artery which is supplying the medial surface. So this whole blue region, if you can see, this is the anterior cerebral artery. So most of the medial surface up to the parieto-occipital region is supplied by the anterior cerebral. Then the temporal pole is supplied by the middle cerebral, while the temporal and the occipital, some part has already been supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Now this part is onto the medial surface is again supplied by the temporal and the occipital lobe by the posterior cerebral artery. Now if this area is affected, that is major supply is from the anterior cerebral artery. Now what are the areas that are included here? So here you have somatosensory area, there is motor area, and there is primary visual area. So if these are affected, if this artery is occluded, the contralateral hemiparesis and hemianesthesia. Now the region is leg and the foot. So if you know the sensory homunculus, you can easily understand why the region of the leg and foot is involved in this region of the medial surface. Then there will be inability to identify objects due to involvement of superior parietal lobule. Apathy and personality changes as it is involving the frontal lobe. Last, coming to the inferior surface, the superolateral surface, medial surface and the inferior surface. So if we start from here, this region is the orbital part. So orbital part is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery, and the lateral part of the orbital orbital area is supplied by the middle cerebral, as well as part of the temporal lobe is supplied by the middle cerebral. Now the last portion which is behind this region, that is the inferior surface, except the temporal lobe, this region is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Now what will happen if there is injury to the posterior cerebral artery, that is occlusion to the posterior cerebral artery? So how the patient will present? As a visual area is involved, so there will be contralateral homonymous hemianopia. So there is involvement of the visual cortex, but still there is macular sparing. They will ask you why there is macular sparing. Because it has dual blood supply, it is also being supplied by the middle cerebral artery, which is called as the macular sparing. Though posterior cerebral artery, which is supplying the visual cortex, is affected, but it is supplied by the middle cerebral artery also, so it takes up the blood supply from there, and there is a macular sparing in the patient. So next, after completing this arterial supply to the cerebrum, the next part is how the internal capsule is supplied. So any one of you can tell me what are the parts of the internal capsule? What are parts of the internal capsule? It is a white matter or grey matter? What are the parts? Anterior limb, genu, posterior limb, sublentiform, retrolentiform. So in this picture, the two pictures are shown. This is the anterior limb, genu, posterior limb, retrolentiform nucleus. So here also you can see this same internal capsule, but the fibers that are crossing has been shown. So different regions of the internal capsule, they have different blood supply. So anterior limb has a different blood supply. If you see the posterior limb, it has a different blood supply. So this region is mainly taking blood supply again from the circle of Willis. So this is internal carotid artery. The branch going upwards is the anterior cerebral artery. So if you can see this branch, anterior cerebral artery, this is going to the anterior limb of the internal capsule. Now it is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery, and it is also receiving blood supply from the middle cerebral artery. So if you can remember this picture, you will remember the blood supply to the internal capsule. Next is the genu. So genu is receiving blood supply from the middle cerebral artery, direct branches from the internal carotid artery, and some branches from the anterior cerebral artery. So these are the branches that will reach the genu. So genu is receiving blood supply from the three sources. Next, coming to the posterior limb. Now this posterior limb is taking blood supply from the middle cerebral and one artery which is known as the Charcot's artery of cerebral hemorrhage. So you should remember this name. This is a very common artery involved in the cerebral hemorrhage, the Charcot's artery of the cerebral hemorrhage. This is the striate branch coming from the middle cerebral artery. Next is the sublentiform part, which is taking branches from the these are the striate branches from this posterior cerebral artery, which will further give blood supply to the sublentiform. Last is the retrolentiform part, which is taking blood supply from the striate branches which are arising from the posterior cerebral artery. So the posterior region, you can say this posterior limb and the sublentiform, retrolentiform, it is taking blood supply from the basilar artery. So basilar artery gives posterior cerebral. Further the striate branches, they are supplying this posterior region, while rest of the region is taking blood supply from the sources of the internal carotid artery. Now, one artery is also there, recurrent artery of Hubner. So the striate branches of the anterior cerebral artery which are supplying the anterior limb, there is one artery which is called as a recurrent artery of the Hubner. So these are the two names in the blood supply of internal capsule which are very important, the recurrent artery of Hubner and the Charcot's artery of the cerebral hemorrhage. So what will be the effect if there is thrombosis or rupture in the recurrent artery of Hubner? So recurrent artery of Hubner, you have seen that this is supplying the anterior limb of the internal capsule. So what are the fibers that are crossing the anterior limb of the internal capsule? Internal capsule have been covered. So what are the fibers that are passing? It's already been there. You can read it and tell. So the thrombosis or rupture of this artery will result in the paralysis of the muscles of lower half of the face. So lower half of face, upper limb on the opposite side. Why? Because of the involvement of the corticonuclear fibers that are in the genu and the corticospinal fibers of upper limb that are present in the adjacent region of the posterior limb. So the recurrent artery of Hubner, if it is affected, it will affect the face and the upper limb. Now, if it is the Charcot's artery of cerebral hemorrhage, then what will happen? This artery is supplying the posterior limb of the internal capsule. So, if the rupture is there, there will be involvement of the corticospinal tract, extrapyramidal tract. So, extrapyramidal tract, whenever is involved, there is spastic paralysis. So, it will lead to the spastic paralysis of the muscles of the opposite half of the body. These are the very common question. If you answer in Viva the arterial supply, blood supply to the brain, they will definitely ask you what are these two arteries, from where these branches are coming, which region of the internal capsule they are supplying, and what will be the effect there.